If you're looking for highly customizable Shaman WeakAuras for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, well, you're watching the right video. I'll be showing you how to install and properly customize them to your liking. We have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. Alright, so let's begin with the installation. Before we do anything, I recommend that you delete the previous version of the WeakAuras that you were using. This will ensure that we get a clean new install, which will limit the risk of possible issues. You'll only have to do this process once, since in the future, you'll simply have to update them as needed. Let's head over to luxthos.com in order to copy the import code. The link is provided in the description down below. Simply scroll down on the page, click the button to copy the code, and head back to World of Warcraft. Once you're in-game, make sure to open up the WeakAuras panel by typing /WA in the chat window. Click Import, paste the code, and you're done. One thing to keep in mind is that the name of the actual groups are very important. You need to make sure you do not rename any of them. Also, make sure you do not have any duplicates. If you have multiple copies of the same WeakAuras, the added number to the group name will cause you some issues. The last thing on our list before we move on to the customization is to make sure we activate the action bar cooldown number in the interface options. Without this, if you're using the default UI, you simply won't see any number on your auras. If you want to change the look and behavior of those numbers, you can use an add-on like OmniCC or something more complex like ElvUI. It is important to notice that both these add-ons will replace the default number. So make sure you don't have both options active at the same time, or you'll be seeing some overlaps. Alright, so we're going to be moving on with the customization, and we're going to start things off with placement and sizing. Because I'm using a 1440p resolution and a 100% UI render scale, you might be seeing something different on your end. The WeakAuras might be bigger or smaller, and I'm going to show you how to change and customize that. So we're going to open up the panel /WA. We're going to click on the Luxthos Shaman group right here. And then we're going to go into the group tab. You can start playing around with the group scale over here if you want to size them down or up. That's going to be a possibility. Also, if you want to change the X offset here at the bottom, you can move it left or right. That's a possibility as well if you don't want it to be centered. And also the Y offset here is something you can change. So you can move the WeakAuras up or down depending on what your UI looks like. You're going to be able to make all those changes to fit it a little bit better. All right, so we're now going to be talking about the groups, their utility, and how to organize the information within them. So a lot of things have changed since the previous versions of the WeakAuras, and I kind of just want to look at the group, explain to you what they're what they're up to, what do they contain, what's their utility, how to customize them, and how to play around with them, right? So things have changed a lot, like I've explained, since even the Burning Crusade WeakAuras or the Shadowland or even Battle for Azeroth WeakAuras. Things used to be a lot more static. So Icon had a predetermined position, and it was quite complicated to move things around, which is why I've changed to this new design, which is a lot more free-flowing and allows for a lot more customization, which is good. So we're going to talk about all the groups here, and we're going to go over the core to start things up, which is probably the most important one. The core group is going to be where all of your rotational abilities are sitting, and your offensive, defensive cooldown, and all of the important abilities that makes your class, pretty much. And as you can see, something cool is happening here. So there is two sections. So there is what I call the main bar of the core group, which contains the first aid icon, and then everything else goes into the overflow, the secondary bar. So what happened here is this is simply based off of positioning in the group. So it will look at the first 8 abilities that are loaded for your specific specs, and it's going to list them in a row, and everything else is going to go down at the bottom, which means that you can change the positioning of all of those things. If I want Stormstrike, for example, to show off after Lavalash, I can simply change the positioning, and here we go. It is that simple. You can even move things from the bottom row to the top just by moving their positioning up in the group, or you can move things from up here down there. So really, really straightforward when it comes to that. So you're just going to be able to edit all of those things very, very easily. And it's just going to be a lot more free-flowing and a lot better overall. So after the core group here, we're going to move on to the dynamics group. So as you can see, the dynamics groups, you're going to have the dynamic effects and the dynamic spells, which are going to be sitting on top here. So dynamic effects is going to be sitting on the left side. It's going to grow towards the middle, towards the right here. And it's going to, on the opposite side, you're going to have the dynamic spells. So dynamic effects is mostly containing buff, debuff, procs, tier sets, all of that good stuff. So very short duration buff that are going to be showing up here. You can customize their order as well if you want things to show up before or after any of them. And you can also unload some of them. So if things gets a little bit too crowded, especially things like flurry, which you don't necessarily need to see that all the time. I mean, it's kind of personal preference. You can simply remove it. So for example, flurry is not loaded by default, but if you would like to see it, you can simply activate it. So I decided to not load it by default because I think flurry is one of those things that it's kind of cool to see it, but I mean, it's not really required, right? It doesn't really changes your rotation or anything. So, but if you want to see it, simply go here, and you can do that for every single other buff, debuff, or even tier set bonus here. There you're going to be able to see at the bottom of this group. We are now going to be moving over to the dynamic spells. So for Shaman, dynamic spells is a little bit different. It simply contains your totem. So your totem are going to be sitting on this side here. They're going to show up right there. So if I drop the totem, there we go. So you're going to be able to see what they look like. If you move out of range of them as well, it's going to be able to show you that you're no longer within the range of the buff. So we're simply going to move over here. There we go. So the border disappears, and as soon as you enter it again, the border should show up again, letting you know that you can be buffed. It takes a little bit sometimes for the game to pick it up, but there we go. And now you're back in there. We're going to clear those out. So this section here is quite nice. You're going to be able to customize them if you want them to show up or not. You can unload them if you don't want them. If you're using maybe another add-ons for totem or something, you can remove that. You can customize the order and all of that good stuff. We're now going to move on to the left and right group. So these right now are empty and are pretty much kind of useless right now. They don't do anything. But I mean, that's not entirely true. They do have a purpose. So if you've ever played retail and you've been using the Battle for Azeroth and the Shaman WeakAuras, I used to have two separate groups on the left side and the right side containing the offensive ability here and the interrupts and stuns and CC on the other side, on the right side of the WeakAuras. So these groups are here to allow you to go back to this previous design iteration if you enjoy it. So for example, as Enhancement Shaman, I'll simply grab Feral Spirits here, and I'll simply drag it into the left side. So it's now sitting in here. I'll close the WeakAuras. I'll do a quick /reload to resize everything, and there you go. So now my major offensive ability is sitting right here. If I would want to, I could also place Wind Shear over here for my interrupts, or even X for the CC on this side. You can pretty much do whatever you want. If you want, you could even put totems in there for all that we care, right? You could even grab the totems, put them in the group. You have total freedom when it comes to the placement of your abilities in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this real quick and put it back where it was. There we go. So that's it for this. This is pretty straightforward. It allows you full customization of all of those things. So that's what the left and right groups are going to be used for. We already went over the core, so we're going to go over that, and we're going to go down to maintenance. Maintenance is quite interesting. It's a little group at the bottom that is going to be underneath the secondary bar here that is simply going to contain your maintenance ability. So for example, right now we have Lightning Shield, which is also going to contain Water Shield. So both of your Elemental Shield. Earth Shield is going to be different. Earth Shield is going to be sitting here for restoration because it kind of has a different behavior because you can place it on other people. So your Elemental Shield are going to be sitting here, and then your Weapon Imbue, so main in and often if you're Enhancement, and then the cooldown of Astral Recall. You know why? Why not? You know, so it shows you the cooldown here if it's used. If you don't want it, you can simply unload it and never show it. The Elemental Shield, if you want, you can customize this. I know this is something that's going to be Quite important for some people, especially if you play enhancement and you would like to have your elemental shield part of your core, you can do that. So later on, I'll show you how to customize the elemental shield to show all the time, because right now it only shows whenever it is either active or missing. You can customize this, but you can make it show all the time. And then if you wanted to, you could even move the elemental shield into the core over here, and you could have it show at all time, right? So that's going to be something that's pretty cool. Right now, it doesn't show in rested area as well, and there's a couple of condition, but we'll talk about the customization here. You can do always show if applied, all of that good stuff here. So we could play around with that and simply, I'll simply show you how to modify this one specifically and put it into the core group. I'll show you that a little bit later. But that's it for maintenance. So it's going to contain all of that good information in here. We're going to move over to the resources. So resources for Shaman looks like a health bar, mana bar, and Maelstrom weapon bar. So this is pretty cool. I've decided to display the Maelstrom stack as if they were combo point in a way. So whenever you reach 5, they glow white, and then you know that you could use an instant cast ability, which is pretty awesome. The health bar is new. We've never had this in the past in any of the WeakAuras. So very straightforward. Simply uncheck never here if you want it to load. So you click the health bar, load, uncheck never, and then you're good to go. If it breaks, you simply do a quick / reload. Sometimes the WeakAura panel will mess things up as you close it. So you want to make sure that everything is properly loaded. Always reload when you close the panel, just to make sure you have the proper design showing up, right? So we're going to reset this back to normal, but that's pretty cool. You get to have access to your health bar if you would like to track that directly in the WeakAuras. You have your mana bar, obviously, and then the Maelstrom. So Maelstrom is pretty nice. It's quite straightforward. It simply fills in as per combo point, right? So there we go. So you're going to be able to track your abilities here, and you're going to be able to know if you're able to use an instant cast ability or not. So that's going to be quite straight. As you can see, also the maintenance icon are showing up in combat. Because normally in a rested area, they would disappear in a rested area. So as soon as you enter combat, it overwrites that settings, and you're going to be good to go. Everything is going to show up for you. So that's pretty much going to be it for the groups. This is going to give you a nice overview and understanding of everything in here and their utility. So you're going to be a little bit more ready when we move on to the custom options. You'll know what is affected and how to change things pretty much, right? So there we go. All right, so we're going to now talk about the custom options for the Shaman WeakAuras. This is going to be a pretty big segment, but it should be quite fun. You're going to be able to style the WeakAuras and customize them to your liking, so this should be quite nice. Firstly here, we can click on the Luxthos Shaman group, and then we can click on the custom option tab right over here. You're going to see that there's going to be a full list of things that we can play with, customize, and change. But before we do that, I want to show you guys where these options are coming from. So a big part of them is going to be from the general option layer here. This is going to contain the general styling, which can be shared with other people or even applied to your other classes. Because they're global, they're able to be applied to any class if you want by simply copying the custom configuration and pasting them onto other classes. So in the class option as well, you're going to have all the class-related stuff. So the health bar, the mana bar, and the Maelstroms are pretty much your resources, which is usually more class-specific. And then in the maintenance section here, you're going to get all of the behavior for the maintenance buff. So all of this is all spread out. So a little bit overwhelming, but if you just click the Luxthos Shaman group and then go to custom option, they're all going to show up here. They're all going to be grouped. So you don't need to go like looking around and all of that. So first here, we're going to have the global style. So this one here is going to contain a bunch of cool options, including the border. So you can apply a border to every single icon and even resources in your WeakAura. As you can see, everything is getting the nice little border treatment. So if you like that style, you can go with this. We're going to leave it at 2 for now, just for fun. We're going to change the border color as well. If we want, we can put it any other color that we want here in the color picker. We're going to leave it at black though. You can decide to not apply the border to the resources. That's going to be another possibility. If that's ever something that you want to do right here. We're going to leave it checked though. And then we're going to have the icon zoom. So this feature here allows you to go back to the regular icon with the 3D border for the original design here. So if you want that, you can feel free to reduce that. But we're gonna leave it at 30. It gives it a nice, clean, square look. We're gonna put back our borders, and we're gonna be ready to move on. The main icon, you're gonna be able to change a lot of things here. So the width and the height of the icon, if you want, you can do some cool stuff. As you can see, the design is fully free-flowing. So you can do whatever the hell you want in here. It's kind of nice. But we're going to just reduce the height for our little experimental design here. So we're going to put it at like 36, give it a nice little rectangle look. It's kind of nice. I like it. We're going to reduce the spacing to 1. So this spacing here controls the spacing around the resources and the primary bar. We're going to lower it to 1. Number of icons is going to be simply the number of icons here. So this is one of the cool feature. You can decide to have a smaller weak aura with like only like maybe 6 icons showing up, like this, or if you want to, you can go ahead and pump it all the way up to 10 if you would like. This is your choice. Feel free to customize this, but keep in mind that the weak auras have been created to have 8 icons, right? So usually you're going to see all of your most important features in the first 8 icon, and it's also designed so that you never get any overlap with the second line here, no matter what talent you're using. So just keep that in mind. We're going to leave it at 8 for now, but feel free to play with this. If you want to see anything else, if you want to customize things a little bit differently here, feel free to do so. On to the secondary icon. So that's going to be the second group here. It's in the same group in the core, but they're split up, and this is the overflow that goes to the bottom. We're not going to touch the width, but we're going to lower down a little bit the height here for this little rectangle look, and then we're going to go ahead and reduce the spacing. Dynamic icons are sitting over at the top here on top of the core group. We're going to go ahead and leave the width intact, and we're going to lower a little bit the height. There we go. Same kind of design. We're going to lower the spacing a little bit. And then the bottom margin is going to be like, how close do you want it to the core, or do you want to give it more breathing room? So we're going to leave it at 10 right here. Some of the cool features here include a swap. So if you want to swap the location of your totems for Shaman and all your buff and debuff tracking, you can swap that if that's something you want. Or you can also ask it to grow from the center. So instead of being aligned to the edge, growing inward towards the middle, it's going to do the reverse. It's going to be aligned first in the middle and grow outward. So that's kind of nice. Feel free to customize these. Side icons is quite straightforward. It's literally the side group, which are currently empty. If you decide to put any of the spells in here, feel free to go here and customize the spacing, the width, the margin, all of that good stuff. We're going to leave it untouched because we are not using these groups right now. Maintenance icon, pretty cool. Same thing. So width, height, we're going to lower this a little bit for our, little test design. We're going to reduce the spacing here from these icon to the bottoms. And we're going to leave the top margin intact. So this is the spacing from this bottom line to the top here. And then the behavior here is the interesting part. So if you want, weapon imbue, for example, show if missing. So that's going to be quite cool. So they're going to show if missing. And then elemental shield will always show because it's quite important here. So the elemental shield is going to be, you're going to be able to modify this and make sure that you give it like the proper settings here. And then the weapon imbue is going to be showing if missing, but you can do always show. Like I explained earlier, I was going to show you for the elemental shield this behavior. If you decide you want to move it from maintenance all the way to the core, you're going to need to make sure it is listed as always show. And there's also going to be one more thing you're going to need to do here. There is a condition here if in rested area. So if you don't want your lightning shield to go away in the rested area, you can simply remove this condition here, right? Or there's another way you can do this. The trigger, this trigger here, you can simply change the trigger here, but the easiest way would be to simply edit the code, remove the first if statement, like so, and then it's no longer going to check if you're in a rested area or not, right? I'm going to leave it as default, but just to let you know, if you want to move the elemental shield into any other group, you need to edit this. And then you also need to change the behavior, or it's going to be by default to always show, so you shouldn't need to modify this, but if you ever modify it and try to move it, just so that you know what is going on here, right? So that's going to be it for this right there. We're going to now move on to the resources. So resources is quite straightforward. You can modify the positioning of those resources. So if you want it to be below the primary bar or above the primary bar, you can do so. So you can get like a quite different design here, which is nice by just moving the location. We're going to leave it down the middle here. The resource height is going to allow you to modify the height of the bars. The health and the mana uses resource height 1. So they're both linked with this one. Resource 2 is going to be for combo point and maelstrom. So there we go. Let's do 10 for now. Why not? And then resource 3 is not going to be used for the shaman. Out of combat alpha, very nice feature. You can reduce the alpha of your weak ores outside of combat right here. You can even go all the way down to make them disappear. And you can even ignore on enemy target and friendly target. So if you target anything, there you go. You get your auras back, and then you can track properly all of that cool information. Moving on to the health bar. You're going to be able to change the height of the bar. So right now they're using height 1. If you remember here, height 1 is this one. You can change it. If, let's say you would like the health to be a different height than the mana, feel free to change it here so you can customize that. You're going to have access to full text formatting. So full value formatted, full and percent formatted in percent and percentage. You can also change the color of the gradient. So it's currently going from a dark green to a light green. Feel free to change this if you want. You can also remove the gradient if you want as well, right? So if you want to remove the gradient, it's simply going to use the first color here instead of the second one, right? There we go. And then the mana bar is going to use the same modification. So height, text format, 2 colors for the gradient, and removal of the gradient if necessary. Lastly, here in the option, you're going to get access to the maelstrom bar. This is just going to go for the height here, and then you're going to have the colors for the different state for the maelstrom. My label here is currently wrong. Let's actually, you know what? Let's fix it live. You know, sometimes we duplicate things and there's little issues. So this first one here is going to be called maelstrom. There we go. And the second one is going to be called maelstrom full. There you go. We're fixing it live. Let's do this. There we go. This should look a little bit better here. Let's make sure we enter the user mode. There we go. So we got the maelstrom color. They're going to be purple as they build up. And as soon as they hit the 5 mark, they're going to glow white pretty much. They're going to go full white color. So that's going to let you know that you're good to go. You should use it for an instant spell. Again, you can change the gradient of these. You can remove the gradient, all of that good stuff. Feel free to play around with these color setting. So the really cool thing is we're now left with a completely different design from what we started with. And the really, really cool aspect to this is that you can actually share it. So let's say that I wanted to copy this onto my other class. I could go ahead and copy the settings, custom configuration, and paste it to my other classes. Could do this. There we go. Paste, and I would be good to go. You're not going to be able to do this with the class option, obviously, because they have unique features. But you could share it to another shaman, for example. That could be a possibility. Talking about sharing, let's say that you wanted to share these colors to somebody else. You can simply hit export here, copy this, and share this to a friend. Or if you just got these from somebody else online somewhere, you can import them right here, and they should show up as a copy outside of the shaman group. So let's say we go back here and reset everything to default, here. We should be back to the normal design here. And then we can go ahead and use this new look that we just got. I recommend doing a quick /reload, otherwise the options are not going to show up properly. And then you're going to do right-click, copy, custom configuration. There we go. Paste it onto this one. And voila, we have this new design that we just got online or from a friend. And it's all imported and ready to go. Make sure you delete this one here. Don't leave it there. And you're going to be good to go. You can now start doing whatever content you want to do. You can always go back if what you imported is not what you wanted. Simply reset to default, and you're going to be good to go. So that's pretty much it for all the custom option here. We pretty much went over every single one of them. You're going to be able to customize the weak aura to your liking. All right, so last point that I want to touch over here is going to be changing the fonts. So this could be very important for some of you that want to create some cool design and want some different fonts over here. So there's 3 fonts that you can change, or 3 different locations where font can appear. The first one is going to be in the middle of the ability. So this number that you see here is actually the same number that is shown on the bar. So this is pretty much not part of the WeakAura. It's actually part of the game engine itself. There we go. The fonts are showing up here, and they're showing up and disappearing directly from here, right? So the way to change this is not going to be through WeakAuras. You're going to have to load an external add-on to modify this. You can actually use something like OmniCC or something a little bit more complex like LVUI, and these should allow you to overwrite the actual number here to something different. Change the font, change the color, and all of that good stuff. The second font that you're going to be able to modify is going to be the small number over some of the icons. So if you look at dynamic effects here, and we look at Flurry, for example, Flurry should have a little number showing up right here. If you look actually here, you'll see it over clear casting. It's very small here. You can see another one down here. So all of these are going to have their own font, and this is through WeakAuras. The easiest way to modify this, click a whole group like this, go into display, scroll all the way down until you see the text label here. And if you mouse over, you'll actually see every single aura that uses this small number. So you can just go ahead and change it right here, change it to whatever font you want. You can change the size, the color, or go into each and every single one of them and modify it if you want to make sure you're not making any mistake by doing multiple editing through here, because this can kind of cause some issues sometime if the placement isn't right. You're going to get multiple of these, so simply go over through them and try to find if there's any. If you don't see any text, there's probably no text being modified. And then you're going to have the third value number that you can modify, which is going to be into the resources. Simply click the health bar, scroll all the way down to the text one, and modify the font to your liking here. Same thing for the meta bar right here. You're going to be good to go. So once you modify the font, you modify the design, you're going to be able to customize the WeakAura to look exactly like you want. All right, well, that's it for this video. I cannot believe you made it all the way to the end. If you would like to support in any way, shape, or form, make sure to like this video. I know everybody says this, but it's true. Like the video, subscribe to my channel if you want to on YouTube, and come see me on Twitch. I stream every single day on Twitch. I play World of Warcraft, I play variety games, we make WeakAuras, we have a good time. Join us, come throw me a follow, just say hi. I'll be really happy. But in the meantime, I'll see you all in World of Warcraft.